Tactics Season 2 continues on, and today's episode is critical. I don't know about you, but I am experiencing meta advertising to be more complex than ever before. Between what you optimize for, how you measure, which ad products to use, there are more options than ever, which is a beautiful thing, but also creates more complexity. Do you consolidate? Do you expand? All these variables introduce immense complexity into running an ad account. But the good news is today you are going to be joined by our Director of Paid Social, Delaney Quinn, who has over a decade of experience buying on Meta and oversees the entirety of our paid social program here at Common Thread Collective. And she's going to walk you through exactly how we are evolving our media buying strategy to meet the complexity of this moment. She is going to leave you feeling more confident in the right way to manage and execute inside of Meta than before you started this video. As always, thank you to our sponsors, Sorrel and DataShips. I'm going to be back later to tell you more about how they are helping to benefit our ecosystem. But for now, enjoy Delaney Quinn talking about meta advertising.
Hi everyone, I'm Delaney Quinn. I am the social director here at CTC, and on today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through a guide to profitable meta media buying. We know there's been a lot of changes occurring in Meta all the way back to iOS and before that, and the changes in attribution window and the cost controls, countless algorithm updates, including the most recent one in Andromeda.
And this is really important. We're going to cover a lot about the impact of Andromeda, the AI ad retrieval system, in how we think about how that informs our campaign development. But it's really important to understand what it enables and why it's so powerful and important, and how it informs a lot of our media buying strategy in 2025.
They're moving from advantage shopping campaigns into advantage sales campaigns. And as an agency, we're evolving with all of that in our strategies and tactics that we're using in platform, as well as really embracing incrementality and measurement and what that means to have an impact on the top line revenue for your brand, and tying that into testing roadmaps. So what does this all look like, and why are we doing this? It's really important that we open the aperture for growth here. We want to adopt flexibility in our media buying and campaign consolidation to help us optimize smarter, as long as we are providing the meta algorithm enough data to learn while still keeping reports credible. And that's what's super important here. It's all about giving Meta the data and information they need to be successful at driving incremental revenue with the approach. By widening our strategies, we believe that we're improving the odds to unlock better return, more new customers, and bigger scalability during key promotional moments. So what does this look like from cost caps to consolidation? So we had an old way of approaching things, and we have a new way of how we recommend approaching things. When it comes to bidding, there are multiple bid types in platform, and we see that a mix of these bid types can be really impactful on business. But it's not just about cost controls. There is a time and place where highest volume testing can be included in your brand. When it comes to attribution windows, a 7-day click window is going to connect the best to your top line revenue. It's going to drive the most last click data for you. But it can be challenging for brands that don't have enough budget, for example, or have a higher AOV product. So we're testing into 7-day click, 1-day view to make sure that we're giving the algorithm enough data and information to scale accounts. For new campaigns, we believed that having a new concept meant that you need a new campaign, but we're moving to this place of consolidation and using ABO to test into different creative angles within accounts. For audience targeting, acquisition with strict exclusions was the way to go, but now we're opening up and we're having conversations about 3 different segments. We have our acquisition audience, we have our active existing customer file, and we also have our lapsed customer file. And lastly, creative. Creative volume was what really helped scale these ad accounts, and volume is still super, super important, but diversification is what's going to help get you to the next level. That is what's going to help reach a new audience and get your growth in these platforms. So starting with cost controls, why it's not just Cost Cap and MonROAS. So they both operate on 2 different parts of the system, and they're going to go after 2 very different audience. By using a Cost Cap, you're going to get the cheapest purchase and you're going to get a lot more volume in your account. MonROAS, going after the highest value customer, is going to drive up your overall revenue, but you might miss out on the volume of purchases. And these can work really well together. For example, for an apparel company, you could be wanting to push through a high volume of a product. Say it's a dress that you know you have a lot of inventory in. A Cost Cap can be a really great place for that. You could also sell a lot of outdoor wear and you know that's a higher price point and you want to go after a higher value customer there. You can use a MonROAS target for that setup. Those are just two examples there. And there's a lot of ways that these can work really well together, but it's really important that you're utilizing both within a campaign. I mentioned prior to highest volume testing, a moment for that would really make sense is during a promo moment where you want to make sure you're getting out in front of the audience really hot and fast first thing with that promotion. The highest volume campaign can be a supplement to what you're doing with your cost controls to really get the scale you need in those big moments. Think Black Friday, a Memorial Day promotion, 4th of July, really big moments that you want to scale into. Next is attribution windows. So when should I use a one-day view? When does that make sense for me? And you can ask yourself, do you have enough volume in your campaign? That's where you really want to start, because 7-day click is an ideal setup for evergreen campaigns that are getting enough volume, because it really does help isolate the incrementality and it minimizes over-reporting in platform. So if you're getting out of learning, you're getting the spend through that you need, you're getting the conversions, 7-day click makes sense and it's going to tie better to your business goals. If you are finding that you're struggling to get out of learning, you don't have enough volume, maybe it's due to a lower budget or a higher AOV good where you're only getting a couple of purchases a day on that window, you might want to start testing into 7-day click, one-day view. One thing that is really important here when you go down this road is it's tied to a actual test design, a study, but you are slightly inflating your targets. So if you have a cost control set on a 7-day click window and you open that campaign up to 7-day click, one-day view, you cannot leave your cost controls where they're at. You're actually going to have to lower them. You're going to need to get a lower CPA on this campaign when you include the view, because it's going to get more volume in there for you, which is great, but we don't want to just overinflate the reporting. We want to make sure we're staying true to the targets that we have in place.
You guys have probably heard me say that I think LTV is a genetic attribute for most brands, meaning it's really hard to move with just marketing. But I want to show you something that I think can have a dramatic effect on your LTV today. And it starts right here on your checkout page. So we all know this little box right here that we're hoping our customers check to receive email and SMS from us, right? When we build the checkout page, we have to wrestle with, do we pre-check it? Do we not? And of course, that's a consideration for both compliance and opt-in rates. So we know that if you don't check it, right, you have a high level of compliance, low risk of causing any legal issues, but the opt-in rates are super low. They can be as low as 4%. Whereas if you pre-check it, you might get an opt-in rate of up to 54%, but you're running a lot of compliance risk depending on where the customer is around the world. Well, with data ships, they actually do dynamic consent collection, where they recognize where the customer is from, ensure that you are following and complying with local law, and actually increasing the consent by helping the customer to be sure that they're being considered in the process. Now, why is this so important? Because the LTV of customers that do and do not subscribe is wildly different. Look at this data from DataShips. They see that a CLV, so customer lifetime value, in apparel as an example, for a non-subscribed customer is $47, where it's more than double for those that subscribe. Just checking that little box for a small subset of customers can massively increase the CLV of your cohorts. But don't take my word for it. Here's what they'll do. If you go speak to DataShips right now, they'll help you do an analysis to compare the value of an opted in versus an opted out customer. They'll then help you set up an A/B test of a dynamically collected or dynamic consent application to figure out how much you can improve the process, and they'll track the incremental revenue generated from that process. It's a win-win. Incremental LTV off of your customers by increasing your compliance. Say less. DataShips, check them out.
It takes us into our segments. That middle screenshot is an example that we have pulled from Statless. Within our tooling, we have the possibility to be able to define from your client who are at-risk individuals and who are churned individuals. So from these customers, we're able to say, for this example, at 161 days, your customer is churned. What you can do, and what we used to do, is exclude all customers even past that churn mark from all of our campaigns. So it's acquisition no matter when you purchase. But now we're looking at including those churn customers into our existing targeting. After 161 days, as defined in Statless here, that customer is no longer likely to continue to purchase with you. They've been lost. So by including them back into those acquisition targeting, you have the ability to win them back. We know that the at-risk and the active audiences are getting hit by other places in marketing. Maybe it's your CRM, things that are going out, all that. And so we do want to continue excluding that from Meta because we know that they're getting the information they need. But we want to consider and test into adding churned into our definitions. One thing that's changing, and I'll get through this in another slide too, is by moving to advanced sales campaigns, you're no longer going to have the ability to do a percent existing. So you can go in currently and say, hey, I want to spend 20% to my existing customers. The rest goes to my other audiences. Excuse me. Going forward, you're going to have to segment out multiple campaigns, one for acquisition and one for retention. You'll still be able to report out on your audience segments as defined, which that example is on the bottom there. But you're going to have to think of a different strategy and approach for your retention audience. What is the language you want to use with them? What does that creative look like? And how are you going to target them with that messaging? That takes us into, what does my account actually look like? Consolidation is going to be your friend. So if you are sitting there asking yourself, should I be launching a new campaign? Do I have what I need? Ask, do I have a setting that I want to launch with that is not active in my current campaign? And if you're saying yes, great, then you can launch a new campaign. If not, you should be going into your existing setup and seeing if there's somewhere that you can launch your new creative. Things that also can be considered a yes is new product launches or drops, promotional moments, and testing campaigns. We do consider those not new campaigns and reason to break things out. Otherwise, we like to consolidate down into our existing setup. One of the ways that we've been setting up these accounts is by AOV. So if you are using a cost cap in your campaigns and you're going after a more higher volume approach, if you have multiple products featured in that campaign with different AOVs, you're going to skew your spend to the lower AOV products. You're not going to get high enough spend. So that's why it's really important when you think of how you want to set up your campaigns and your approach. You're using similar AOVs in the different campaigns. And if you're going to do some creative testing and targeting, you do have the ability to do ad sets within that campaign to see if you're getting a read on the audience reach into these different diverse creatives. Volume is what really got us here, and diversification is going to take us further. We know from the stats from Meta that diverse creative helps improve performance and efficiency and gets you a greater reach within the account. So it's really important that we're thinking through what it looks like from a creative perspective, from a diverse creative perspective, to help us reach a new audience. One of the other changes we're really seeing here within our agency is the middle of the funnel. We really operated heavily in the conversion bottom of the funnel, and we still operate there. But we don't want to be afraid of the middle of the funnel. We want to find ways to leverage it and how to test into this with a testing mindset. This mid-funnel really warms up those high-intent buyers. It can help reduce your CAC by priming consideration audiences. It's also really effective for higher AOV products to help scale performance without wasting spend. Some different examples of these tactics can be video views, post engagements, or add to carts and landing page views. What's really important is this is what falls into a, hey, I want to launch a new campaign over here. I'm going to launch a new campaign. I'm going to set it to add to cart. I'm going to use CBO on this, and I'm going to dump all my creative in there. It's important you set clear KPIs. What am I measuring with this? We know the middle of the funnel is not going to drive the best conversions, but it's going to have an impact on your other campaigns in the account and their efficiency. So the assisted impact is really important. For example, too, if you're going to do, say, an add to cart campaign, I would expect that the frequencies in my engaged audience is going to go down because I'm fueling that more efficiently with a high quality audience. A couple of last things here is we do recommend allocating about 5% to 10% of your monthly budget to this space if you are testing, and to think about your creative strategy approach. This is where diversification really comes in here. And it's really important to use creative that educates and builds trust. It's not just about selling the product here.
All right. If you've been following me for a while, you know I believe the real leverage in D2C growth today isn't happening just in your ad account. It's upstream to that. It's about who you are as a brand. And one of the best brand building activities that you can run is influencer marketing. And I don't just mean paying people to post for you or sending some famous people product. I mean building an owned influencer community, one that promotes you on repeat and drives relentless social proof. The best tool I found to do that is called Sorrel. Sorrel handles everything, seriously, end to end. You can discover any creator you want so they can help you define the ideal partners. You can automate all of your outreach at scale. It's crazy. Every communication, every relationship, all visible in one spot. It integrates with Shopify so you can ship the products really easily. You can also track all of your performance with their built-in tools. And then you can monitor every mention on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube through their social listening platform. It's like HubSpot for influencer marketing. If you're serious about brand growth this year, you need to check it out. Head to getsorrel.com. We'll drop a link in the show notes and tell them Taylor sent you. I'll hook you up with a little love. Again, that's getsorrel.com, and build your own influencer community today.
And this is how we do it. We look to test boldly, learn quickly, and grow confidently. If you are testing into something new, that is where growth gets unlocked. And we know that not every test is going to be successful, but the right ones are really what change the game. So as we think about all these changes that we're feeling, attribution window changes, middle of the funnel, maybe highest volume testing in big moments, let's make sure that we are hypothesis driven and we're strategically testing into these different changes, because a structured test and learning can help us scale. And this could be the next big unlock for your account. So what do I do now? What does this actually look like? What I want to show you now is the different changes we're seeing within the platform and what that might mean for how you are setting up campaigns. This screenshot is an example of the new Advantage Sales campaign. So you can see up in the top right here, it's considered on. So when you go in to set up a campaign in Meta now, you will not have the option of BAU or Advantage Shopping. It takes you right to this setup. It's not fully rolled out for all accounts, but all accounts are moving in this direction. So this is the example of what you could see if you have not rolled out yet. This is also an example of how you can include ad sets. We've been getting that question a lot, is what do you mean ad sets with an ASC? I didn't know you could do that. In this new setup with the Advantage Sales campaigns, you do have the ability to create different ad sets for some of your different creative targeting. This isn't going to turn off the Advantage Sales campaign. It isn't going to mess up with anything, but you do have that capability. I will caveat, if you are going to set up multiple ad sets to reach different creative testing angles and audiences, you should still segment your campaign by acquisition and retention. We wouldn't want to mix acquisition and retention into a single campaign. One thing that will turn off Advantage Sales, and this is what would go maybe back to their typical BAU, is ad set budget. So CBO leaves this Advantage Sales on. If you change your budget to ad set, it's going to turn off. If you're not using recommended audiences or all the placements, you could turn off too, but that doesn't change anything about the setup when you first go in to build a campaign. And that's different from what it used to be. So this is an example, if your account hasn't been migrated over yet, what you would currently see when you go in. You'd have the option of Advantage Plus Shopping or a manual sales campaign. Advantage Plus Shopping, you could drop all your creatives into one campaign, no ad sets, percent caps. Manual sales campaigns with your ad sets and your defined exclusions is the other setup. And that's a lot closer to what we're seeing here, where we can now have ad sets and we can control the targeting by campaign.